John, just tell me a little bit about the importance of and why it's important parish share.
Well, parish share is used primarily to pay clergy stipends and pension and housing and all the other costs that go along with having clergy within our diocese. But without that, we wouldn't be able to pay it, and certainly the national church wouldn't be able to pay it. Clergy lead our mission, and that's what we're about now. We're a mission-focused church. Without parish share, we would have no vision. We'd have nowhere to go forward.
So it's very important, not just obviously to parishes directly, but collectively as we look towards Vision 2026.
Absolutely. And of course, parish share is also the opportunity for the poorer parishes, those in deprived areas, to be supported by those in better off areas. So there are mechanisms within the parish share that allow us to take from the rich and give to the poor, although I accept nobody's rich within this diocese.
Indeed. And in terms of the parish share budget that's presented to Synod, how is that going this year?
This year there's going to be a 2% increase on parish share, although it isn't necessarily the figure that each individual parish will find as their increase, because it can vary dependent on their regular weekly attendance. And we actually talked about that at great length at Synod this year, because we have had a fall in our regular weekly attendance across the board. And whilst we use a dampening effect of the 3-year moving average, there's still a 3.5% decrease in regular weekly attenders. What that means is any parish that's marked time, hasn't changed its regular weekly attendance or has increased, is likely to find itself paying slightly more than the 2% increase this year.
Okay, right, that's clear. And in terms of the support that's offered to parishes, this year you've had regular meetings, or you've had a number of regular meetings with parishes to discuss their parish share, to support them in the payment of it, and I think that's continuing next year, is that right?
That's correct. We've met, I think, probably something like 50 or 60 parishes that have struggled to pay the parish share historically, or have just started to struggle. And it's given us an opportunity as a diocese to find out why they're struggling, where the areas of concern they have or we have are, and it's also given us the opportunity to support them, both with finance, to actually give them grants to assist them to pay their parish share in full, but also to give us the opportunity to assist them with our expertise, our stewardship advisors, those sort of things that can help parishes to maybe get out of the hole that they've found themselves in.
And you'll be doing a bit more of that next year as well, yes?
Definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
And any parishes that haven't yet got in touch, do so?
Do so, yes. Yes, we'd be more than happy to meet with you. Bishop, members of Synod and the Board of Finance, which of course you are, I'm pleased to present to you this morning the budget for 2018. It's been prepared by the Budget Committee with some modifications approved by the Board of Finance Directors and Trustees. Before I start though, I would like once again to place on record my thanks to Ruth, Mila and the Finance team, to the Budget Committee, to the Bishop's team and the budget holders for the part they've played in getting us to the point we are at today. But before I start, let's just consider why we have a budget. The budget I'm presenting is about raising resources required for us to undertake our shared vision for the parishes and the diocese. It's not about building up money so we can get bigger reserves at the diocese. The money we get in, we want to spend, and we want to spend it to make that vision a reality. On to the process then. This year we followed a similar process to last year in that we involved the Bishop's team, including of course the budget holders. This was to ensure that the budget stayed focused on our vision, and if savings needed to be made, that they would come in places that would cause least harm to the diocese. As the budget moved through the different stages, areas are challenged and refined. One significant area of debate for all the groups that have examined the budget this year was the tension between a stipend increase that's fair and right for our hard-working clergy and setting a parish share increase that isn't too challenging for the parishes in the current climate. The Budget Committee recommended to the Finance Committee and the Directors a 1.7% increase in parish share. That incorporated a 1.5% increase in stipends and salaries. That was a majority decision, though, and there were advocates of 1%, 1.5% and 2% increases in stipend and salaries. The directors re-looked at this decision in the Board of Finance and felt that with a suggested national stipend increase of 2% and the rising level of CPI, that a 2% increase to both stipends and salaries was warranted. The impact of this decision was to lift the proposed increase in parish share request from 1.7% to 2%. Now, I can assure you that none of the clergy or officers affected by this increase actually took part in that decision making. They stepped aside and let the remainder of the board make the decision. So what are the main points in the recommended budget? As I've just mentioned, we've set stipends and salaries at a 2% increase. I did ask Graham if he could find out what was going on locally, because it's always useful to know what's happening in local parishes, in local dioceses. And all of the local dioceses, with the exception of one, are going for 2%. The one that isn't is going for 1.6%, but in the last 2 or 3 years, they've exceeded the national recommendation, which of course we haven't. We've gone under the national recommendation. So on balance, you could say, they've really gone for the 2%. We're looking for 8 new curates to join us in 2018. One of the main areas for improvement is the collection rate and giving stewardship within the diocese. That's been emphasised very much in the meetings that we've been having with parishes that were struggling to pay. And it's something that we really do want to concentrate on in this coming year. And we are going to continue with those meetings with parishes that are struggling to pay in 2018. Part of our appeal to retain and attract clergy, which of course is very important, is the care we take over our housing stock. So in addition to the £50,000 increase in the property budget, there'll also be a further allocation of £300,000 from the pastoral fund in order to increase the number of kitchens and bathrooms that can be replaced within the property programme in the next 12 months. That's an area which has been highlighted over several years. We're starting to get behind with kitchens and bathrooms, and it's important that we try and catch that up. And we may have to do more in the future, because we're not going to crack it with £300,000, but we'll make a good start. In order to minimise the cost of providing housing where it's economically sensible, we're going to continue to look, where possible, at renting curate housing. Vacancies will continue to be budgeted for, but of course we don't aim at a budgeted figure. We have what we have, but we do need to budget for it because it has an impact. What that means is that all parishes benefit every year from the vacancies, rather than having a reduction in share when you're in vacancy. This year, an allocation from reserves has been made while some restructuring is considered centrally. With retirements that are due, the opportunity is being taken to see how things could be undertaken centrally in a different way and what savings could be made from that. While that's happening, the increased cost of parish share is being cushioned by using some reserves. With regard to Whalley Abbey, a special meeting of Bishops' Council and Directors will take place next month to consider options for the future of the Abbey following a lengthy review. One final budget point. Those churches in our most deprived areas need additional support, that's clear. To enable us to transform their communities, they need extra funds, and we know that, and the Central Church knows that. We have been considering this complex issue of how the funding from the National Church aimed at our poorest communities can be best allocated while still maintaining a stable budgetary position. This important issue is being considered alongside the work of the re-established Parish Share Review Group, which has already commenced a review of the current and possible alternative share systems. So we want to look at the two together because they are linked. We're planning to bring proposals to the Diocesan Synod next July with a view to introducing changes in 2019. For the year 2018, though, it's proposed that the 20% most deprived parishes, and that's by income measure, will not have to pay the 2% increase in share. And additionally, no parish in this group will have a request greater than in 2017. The funding for this will come from the 8% relief fund that we build up each year. Moving on then to the numbers, I'm sure you've all had an opportunity to digest the numbers. From the graph that you can see here, the key areas of income and expenditure are shown. The bottom one doesn't show well, unfortunately, because of colours. The main income source is the share received from parishes, and the biggest expenditure is the parochial staffing and related costs. The income we receive in share and fees roughly cover the cost of clergy. You will have noticed we do not have a balanced budget this year. I've already mentioned the use of reserves. This is to allow time for the reorganisation to naturally take place as people retire and for new ways of working to be introduced. As I mentioned earlier, the proposed increase in share is therefore 2%. But, and I always have to say this one unfortunately, it won't be that for all parishes, because we have to take into account regular weekly attendance and the movement annually of regular weekly attendance. If we just look in a little bit more detail here, the drop in RWA is of real concern. Now, the drop isn't only due to actual reductions in attendance this year or in the 3-year rolling period. Some parishes haven't calculated their numbers as well as others, and we've had to make adjustments basically through wrong counting. So we've had both effects, actual numbers reducing and bad counting, having to change it to account for that. 2016 showed an even greater drop than the previous year, with the rolling average, and we use a 3-year rolling average, reducing by 3.4%. That's 582 attenders we're accounting for. And as you can see here on the slide, the result is an annual increase of £8.11p per RWA per year. And that, of course, will have an impact on some parishes, particularly those parishes that have marked time in terms of numbers or grown. I want to emphasise, though, that increase caused by RWA is nothing to do with increased costs, but rather a lower base to spread the cost across, with there being less RWAs. This year, the parish share budget includes an amount for reserves, as I've already mentioned. We have included both the amount requested from parishes and the expenses figure in the motion, so that the full information is there to be considered. I've included a slide here to show how we move from the expense figure of 10.8 million to the request figure of 9 million.